This is the second part of the sea battle with the Savoyards. You know, remember what was happening? It was a one-on-one. We were turning around, firing, turning around, firing, turning around, firing. We'd already got rid of half their fleet anyway, so it's just a case of getting rid of the rest. And I've saved you the strain of all that, just watching every one of those individual fights. We've had some pretty long battles to watch recently, and after only one day of gaming, I ended up with about 4 hours worth of footage. Would you believe? So I need to edit some things out. But anyway, these are the final scenes of the battle. Just one or two close-ups, because it's always nice to show off the Empire Total War graphics, basically. Okay, so there's a demasted enemy ship, and that's about all that's left. Bit of a pain looking around trying to find all the ships. This is my ship, of course. See, I've got one or two casualties on there. You'd have thought there'd have been time, wouldn't you, rather than standing around, to at least pick the bodies up. Perhaps not. You see them up there on the poop deck? Some bodies on there, as well as those on the lower decks. Dear me. Almost caught them up. You notice we're on grape shot, and you look at the table down on the right hand side, that, I don't know what you call it, that clock, or yeah, that sort of group of pictures, icons. Here you go, he's routing. Notice I've only fired chain shot at him. Well, I think I have actually, and he's got some pretty bad holes in the side there, hasn't he? Even just from chain shot. Well, I think I've captured every one of these ships. So that should be a really good income for me and get me out of a hole in terms of bankruptcy. I just have to really keep my fingers crossed that somebody like Sweden doesn't just simply go in now and blockade Antwerp. Sorry, I keep saying that. Rotterdam. Yeah, that's my grape shot going in before we board. We won't need to board really. Once we pull them in towards us, that'll be it. They were routing anyway. They're never going to go anywhere. They're surrounded by a massive navy. They've got to surrender. Okay, and that apparently is a close victory. I don't know how it works out victories, but look at all those ships that I've captured. I wonder if experience and victory is based on the number of ships that you've actually blown out of the water, which to me is much less of a victory. You know, if you defeat the enemy and get prize money from his ships, to me that should be a bonus. Anyway, back into the port to replenish these ships, because there's another Savoyard fleet just below me, just to the south of me. I'm going to want to take those out as well. I don't want any Savoy ships to be wandering around in this part of the seas. These are the ones that defeated the troops in Paris, as you remember. Need to really get those back into Europe now. Europe is now vulnerable. I've tied up troops in Europe, of course I have, but it is really the central hub of my empire. I could just, you know, reduce it and risk Amsterdam going. I don't want to do that, of course. It's not possible to shift capitals, so if he blocks that port, I can't just suddenly then shift my capital to Paris and work through a port through there. It would just cripple my economy, and that's why I've been tying up that fleet there in the English Channel for so long. I really do need to get that back right away, or start constructing some ships up there that are going to defend the English Channel. Got to make a decision one way or the other. Really what I'd like to do is move my fleet from the south back up to the north, so that I'm not spending money on building new fleets, and then just put a limited fleet down in the south, you know, say a fourth or a fifth rate or something, just to stop any sort of Savoyard, you know, brigs and sloops coming out and blockading again. What I'm doing now is replenishing any troops that I can, getting rid of those that are useless to me. The small unit of grenadiers that I can't use anymore. They're not very effective in this theatre, actually, the grenadiers. Notice what I'm doing, all those troops with 60 or above, I'm replenishing those because they'll keep the experience from the unit as it exists at the moment, rather than dropping down any chevrons, dropping down levels of experience. I do have a new barracks in here, which really I've built, yes, to get better quality troops, but mainly so that I can research the land army technologies. I want the modern bayonet drill, you see, and what else is there? Fire by rank, for instance. Not fire by rank, sorry, fire and advance. These are the ones that couldn't get back into the city, so I'm going to pop those back in there now. Well, if I can get them in. Looking like they won't go back in there. But anyhow, same drill. Upgrading those troops that I can afford to. Basically because there are some large Maratha armies there and I don't want to be losing these provinces. I know I've only just made the money, but the main thing is I've opened up the port of Marseille again, and that is going to give me a vast income back. Plus I've got money to spend, like I said, from the fleet. So I'm using the money from the fleets to repair some of my armies. I've not been able to, you see, so I've let them get smaller and smaller and smaller, and there'll come a point when they become ineffective. You know, just a couple of shots from the enemy and they'll be running away because they've lost too many men. A unit of 20 that suffers 20 casualties, you know, 50% all in one blow, it's too much for them, so I can't expect them to stand. The VOCs in this area, in this theatre, count basically as regular infantry. So I know I'm labouring these screens, sometimes I'll just rush through things like this, but I thought it might be interesting to show how I choose which units to, which units to replenish and which to join together. One of the reasons why I'm joining troops together is I want to make way for some of the new units that I can now create, because of the improved barracks that I've got over there. I'm looking now over to the Americas. Again, I'm looking for sustainable wealth, so anything that I can build, like gold mines that I can develop or whatever, has got to be useful to me. Don't worry about a smoke there. That'll just be an iron foundry that I never bothered to repair. I'm after all this time, what seems like for 20 turns or something, I don't know how long it is, a long time, when I was at war with the Spanish, I left these troops in here, and I didn't actually replenish any of these troops. So I was originally going to go for Grenada, but Andalusia is one of my objectives, so I went there instead, and then got peace with Spain. Just going to sort out the ministers again, see if that improves our financial situation as well. Part of the reason why I'm upgrading these troops here is Spain is quite close to me. They might start building again, but not only that, Guatemala is a lucrative place. It's worth me having it, and it means if I take it, there's less threat from the Spanish in that area as well. Okay, so that's the end of the turn. That's the end of the winter of 1737. Sorry, I should say we're going over to the winter of 1737. Okay, usual turn ends. And you can see how the income has now got back to normal. It's just a case of what do we do now with this fleet, and how do we protect both Marseille and also the northern parts of Europe.